Hey my friend, today I'm gonna help you make outstanding ambient guitar swells with your delay pedals. And we are going to study one aspect because it's not the first time I talk about swells on my channel. We've seen many aspects, but I found that this one I'm gonna talk about today is most often overlooked, and it's the one that has the most impact on the quality and the consistency of your swells. So most of the times when we want to have good swells with a volume pedal or with the volume knob on your guitar, it's to blend two delay pedals at the same time. And some people do even three, but two is enough for me. And the goal is to get rid of the perceivable repeats because a delay pedal is just replicating your signal, right? So when I just do that, you hear my guitar multiple times. But the swell, it's actually the opposite that we want. We don't want to hear the... And that's why we swell the sound, we fade it in with the volume pedal or the volume knob to get rid of the picking attack. So that's what it does. If you listen to the background, to the repeats right now, you still hear the vroom, 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 vroom. You hear the pulsation, the pulse behind it, and that's what we want to get rid of. We don't want to hear the repeats, we just want something consistent that's going to sound a little bit more like a synth. And how we can do that is by blending two delay pedals together. So if I add my second delay pedal, which is the timeline, so now the timeline just has a basic digital sound. So same thing, if I swell only with the timeline, you still hear the pulse a little bit. So when you want a great ambient swells, and I'm the first to say that, but you are going to work on your repeats and your mix and make sure that they are pretty high to get a wash of sound and something really ambient. It's sure that even if you have two delays at the same time and the repeats are down, this won't make the trick that much. So my swells dies down very fast, so I'm gonna ramp up the repeats. And now I'm gonna have long swells. But now what happens is that even if I blend two delay pedals at the same time, we kind of hear the repeats and the pulse still in the background. A little bit, and that's the parameter I want to talk today. It's the timing of your delays. Some people overlook this and they just set up their repeats or their mixes to be high on both pedals, but the tempo and the timing of both delays is too similar. So that's what's happening here. So when I tap the tempo to be pretty much the same on both pedals, this doesn't help at all. It negates the effect. It negates the effect of stacking delays together. What we want to have is collisions between your delays so that it's going to diffuse the sound. And the more diffused it is, the more consistent is going to be your swell, and that's what we are looking for. So what I like to do, and especially if I have tap tempos, I'm going to keep one delay pedal at the same tempo, and I'm going to try to tap something that feels a lot different compared to the other. Because if I just do one rake like this, This is too similar between both pedals, even if when you look at the screen right now, the LEDs feel like they don't blink at the same time, but it's too similar. So what we'll do is tap something that is a lot more different and just experiment with it. So now let's try how it sounds. So you hear how it multiplies itself. So let's try a swell once again with this. So it's already much better compared to a similar timing. Let's try again. If you listen really closely, you can still hear the repeats a little bit. But now you have to experiment and tap a different one so that the diffusion happens as fast as possible. Because with my first example with different tempos on both, it was like tack, 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 tack. It was like at the beginning, it was still not diffused enough. So you try to find multiples of tempos that are going to fight each other as soon as possible. And sometimes you just have to experiment with it. So let's try again with this one. So it's too similar. Try again. So now that's the example I told you. You have a diffusion, you have a multiplied effect, but it happens too slowly. So maybe I have to tap on my timeline a faster tempo to make sure that it's going to diffuse faster. And since my repeats are high, this is not going to be a problem. And if the swell is too short, I can still ramp up the repeats a little bit. Let's try again. Okay, now it happens faster. Let's try a swell. If you listen, you can't really hear the repeats in the background now. It also has to do with how you sweep with your pedal. Of course, if you do short bursts like this, of course we are going to hear the repeats more, but even in this case, we don't hear them that much. It's still pretty diffused. Let's see if we can find another one that's even more diffused like this one. Oh. So this one is pretty consistent. So you see the point a little bit. It's just to have two delay pedals that are just one in front of another, and one is gonna feed and fight each other, and this is going to diffuse a lot, and you will get some consistent, good sounding swells that are going to get rid of the repeats in the background. So now you just have to experiment with your time knobs or your tap tempos and find combinations that you like the most. If you use the time knobs like this, because now I use the tap tempo, but sometimes it could be even better to use the time knob like this, because once you find a setting and a combination that you really, really like between both of your delays, you could just take a picture of your pedals and keep it for future reference. Or if you have the timeline, you could just save it with the timing on your preset like this. So that could help. So, in a nutshell, that's what I wanted to talk about for swells today. If you like that little tip, I have a whole free guide that you can get, first link in the description box, where I go through my best tips to create ambient guitar looping songs. So on my channel, I make original ambient guitar songs almost every week, and to be consistent and productive like this, I need to have some principles and songwriting principles to apply to make sure that it's going to sound good. And those are all tips inside my free guide. So click on the first link in the description box and download it if you want to make music that sounds like this. All right, if you are new here, subscribe and leave a big like to this video. It helps the channel a lot, and we will see each other very soon. Until next time, au revoir.